I think this is a critical issue for the working class and for humanity. And I think really this has just come into public consciousness, especially over the last 6 months since the release of ChatGPT. And I myself was really shocked by the capabilities of this thing. And I think we're all sort of getting our heads around what this is going to mean for the future. And I think the nature of the technology is unclear for most people. But I think most recognize that the technology is going to be revolutionary. And I've seen a lot of skepticism in the left-wing press about sort of suspicion of the hype. I've read things like AI isn't real, or it's just an advertising campaign by the tech billionaires, that these systems are not really intelligent and they don't really pose much of a danger to jobs. But I think workers know that AI is real enough. It's a threat to their jobs. And certainly in the WGA pickets, some of which I've attended, pretty much every writer I've spoken to has described this as a major concern for their own jobs. If you just play with GPT for a little while, you can see that it could be used to draft a script, and a human writer could just be brought in afterwards to give it a polish or tweak some dialogue or something. Maybe you write an outline for the AI and then use it to fill in the gaps. And so in this way you could automate most of what writers are doing, and workers would be reduced basically to the old days of Hollywood screenwriting, where a writer is just given a one-time check with no benefits, no pension, no job security. And I spoke to an actor with SAG-AFTRA, and his concern, he's a voice actor, and he was telling me he's worried about losing his job to AI-generated voices. And so this is a very general problem. The writers are at the front lines of this, but this is going to affect really the entire working class. So animators, artists, photographers, all of these workers now have to contend with image generation technology. There's AI-generated music now. You can find Michael Jackson covers of recent pop hits, AI-generated Beatles songs. This stuff can just be generated by any amateur. People are working on text-to-video, where you can synthesize an entire video from text. So in the future, you may not need a script at all. You might just generate an entire TV show from scratch. Systems like GPT, which work with language, can do much of the work done by a reporter. Editing work, translation, of course, can be done very efficiently. Programmers like myself can be replaced. GPT-4 is already a better programmer in many respects than I am. It certainly knows many, many more programming languages than I do. Lawyers and their assistants will be affected. So these systems can process information about 1 million times faster than a human being. So that means, if it's a job where you need to go through a large amount of text, maybe pick out information and combine it in certain ways, that can be replaced. A lot of secretarial work, data entry jobs, anything involving Excel, accounting, customer service, these are all vulnerable. Drivers, of course, are threatened by self-driving cars. Engineers can be potentially replaced. GPT can solve complicated math problems, including some that an average engineer would not be able to solve. Design work can be done by AI. In much the same way that we generate images now, you could potentially generate 3D designs. So managers also could be replaced. So AI is already being used for monitoring and directing workers in a warehouse, or delivery drivers, or deciding when to hire and fire people, and this could be escalated much more. So I think it's clear that this technology is revolutionary. Tens of millions of jobs are already threatened by the tech that we already have, and the technology is rapidly improving. We're really just at the beginning of what's possible. And capitalists are pouring money into this, tens of billions of dollars of investments already, and that will soon be hundreds of billions of dollars per year. And really the only jobs that are going to be safe in the near term are those that require a human touch, or that involve like a lot of dexterity, having a physical body, using your hands, so basically manual labor. So this is really inverting expectations that the manual workers are the most replaceable. In fact, it's the middle-class jobs that are going to be the first to be replaced. And I think we can expect that this is going to level conditions between the middle class and the working class, and also to some extent between the workers of the first world and those of the third world. Some people say, well, new jobs will be created to replace the ones that are lost, but it may be that the market can't absorb the unemployed because there's simply not enough demand for tasks that humans can do at a competitive cost. And I think that is the situation we're headed for. And of course, this is not going to lead only to unemployment, but also the proliferation of part-time and gig work, and huge downward pressure on wages. Many of the cushy tech and intellectual and managerial jobs are going to disappear. And I think we can expect mass unemployment and whole sections of the working class being pushed into precarity and poverty. So under capitalism, I think AI is an existential threat to the working class. It also opens up new possibilities, though. So the last time we got a massive de-skilling of the workforce was in the early 1900s. So at that time, the labor movement was dominated by the American Federation of Labor, which was a federation of predominantly craft unions, which was dominated by conservative bureaucracy. But the skilled labor of that period was increasingly replaced by assembly line manufacture. And so this produced a huge industrial working class, which organized the CIO, rebelled against the AFL bureaucracy, and built the big industrial unions in these massive struggles of the 30s and 40s. And so today, the unions have largely regressed back into craft unionism. So my employer, the University of California, has 10 unions. There's the UAW for teaching and research assistants, the AFL for lecturers, AFSCME for service workers, SEIU for hospital workers, Teamsters for delivery drivers, UPTI for technical workers, and so on. So 10 unions at a single employer. Each of these negotiates their own contracts, which don't usually expire at the same time. The unions are divided, they barely cooperate with each other. And so I think that the massive de-skilling that AI is going to cause is going to give us an opportunity to rebuild the labor movement. And I think that it's going to force workers to fight back and to turn their unions back into fighting organizations. And I think in the longer term, AI really is going to undermine capitalism in some fundamental ways, because capital is driven to automate the economy in order to cut costs, but it's faced with the paradox that the more it automates production, the lower its profit rates will go. And for this reason, complete automation of the economy is not compatible with capitalism. And so the fundamental question is, who controls the automated production? This is potentially the basis for a society of tremendous wealth and abundance, but this would require the democratic control of this technology by the entire population, and that can only be won through a political struggle by the working class. I don't think boycotts are likely to be very effective. I think history has shown that has not been a very effective tool. I also don't have a lot of hopes in UBI, Universal Basic Income, because it seems to me that as the profit rates are decreasing in the capitalist economy, there's increasingly nowhere to get the UBI from. The UBI would have to come from taxation on corporations whose profit rates are decreasing. And so I don't really think that is a feasible approach. I have a lot more hope in workers' cooperatives and organizing production to buy the working class to satisfy the social needs that exist.